I want to share with you guys one of our favorite training targets. This is from our friends at Rubber Dummies. The product we're about to show you has definitely been seen before, so it's not like I'm sharing with you some new item that's never been seen. This is what it looks like when it shows up to your house or business. The dummy itself is made of a recycled rubber product. I'm guessing it's probably 35, 40 pounds, something like that. It's the same kind of material that like a parking curb is made out of, the rubber parking pads that you see in parking lots. Right out of the gate, the first thing that you're going to notice that separates this from many conventional training targets is it's three-dimensional, right? It's not a flat, one-dimensional piece of paper. That said, once you start to engage at angles, you start thinking about bullets' impact and exit points into a target, which is completely different than shooting at a flat piece of paper. We'll demo that in a minute. A couple other nice things about this. I have one at home that's got 7, 8, 10,000 rounds through it. It's still usable. All you do is use spray paint. I have also used a little Whizzy roller, which is a small, narrow paint roller, and rolled paint on it. The other thing, and we'll show you here in a minute, is you throw old t-shirts onto these guys. So I'm going to show you how simple it is to put this together. So this base, I've had this base for a number of years. It's been out on the range in rain and such. There's two options, actually two options from Rubber Dummies. So this is very, very simple stuff. They weld these parts in-house. The parts that might get impacted by a bullet here and here are AR-500. The simple thing though is just how easy this stuff is. This is their one method of mounting. They also make a base, which is this device here, that is able to go onto a 2x4. There's many target systems out there that use vertical 2x4s. I use this one because I can break the thing down and throw it into our range box. There's also a couple companies that make mounts. Sheepdog Targets makes a cool mount for their setup, and a few others. You've got that together. You saw how simple that was. There's two holes in the bottom of the dummy here, and that simply drops onto the base. That's it. Whoa, the dummy's together. You have your target. Pretty crazy. Now, if you wanted to, this is just gas pipe here. You can go to the hardware store and buy whatever length you wanted. If you wanted a shorter or taller section of pipe, you could make this guy whatever height you wanted. Or if you're a pipe fitter or plumber and can thread pipe, do it to it. I've also seen guys just set these things right on top of barrels or other things like that. Let's take a look now at how this differs from a piece of paper. All right, we're gonna put a few rounds on a rubber dummy. The first thing I wanna show you is what happens when you shoot the dummy. First thing to keep in mind is we're using ball ammo. Do not shoot the dummy with jacketed hollow points or hollow points of any kind, because that bullet's gonna do what it's supposed to do. It's gonna expand and it's going to rip up your dummy. Watch what happens now with just the jacketed ball ammo. Eyes and ears. Let's go down range, Drew. All right, so we put 3 shots into dummy, 3 nice shots, I might add. What you see here is basically like a pinpoint because that rubber expanded and contracted back around the bullet hole. I'm gonna spin the target around and show you the backside now. Can you see that, Drew?
Looks dark.
Do you see how there's almost no deformation?
I do.
So why I'm showing you this, guys, is these targets are made, I don't want to say they're self-healing because over time you will degrade a hole in the target, but for 5,000 to 7,000 rounds with ball ammunition, and we shoot these things with rifles, I've shot them with shotguns, which destroys them, but with ball ammo, you're going to get a lot of service out of this. So when it comes down to realistic training, much better than a piece of paper, versus what we did in our other video talking about targetry for marksmanship. I'm going to show you now engaging this with some angles, and then I want to show you guys what happens when you contact shoot. Some people are not familiar what will happen if they were entangled in a fight and their gun had to be pushed in to an adversary. You see what happens to my Beretta? It actually starts to push the slide out of battery, so we're going to discuss that real quick here. So one of the great pluses of the dummy is that it's three-dimensional, as we discussed. So now you can start to work on the angles of bullets' impact on a target. When you're shooting at a flat piece of cardboard like we have downrange there, you don't have that depth of dimension with the 3D that you have on this. So we shoot at targets and we assume that an adversary is going to stand like this, just facing us. But as people are turning, the 8-10 inches of depth that an average man's chest is, 7-8-10 inches. If I'm angling like this, you now have a much smaller area, and you have to think about where the vitals, where the spine is in relationship to where you're at and where the angle of the bullet's flight's going to be. When we look at cardboard, we just know center, hit center mass. From your vantage point, where you're at now, this is all good hits, right? We've got the ocular vault. We've got the spinal column running down the center of the body. We've got the heart and lungs right here. But if we start doing something like this, if you continue to aim here, if you think about the bullet trajectory, or if I spin this way, look at where my other finger is here. I'm going to spin this around now. So if the angle of where you guys are at watching, if you shot this same point, here is where your bullet would exit. So, where would you have to aim? If we were having that acute angle, you'd now have to aim here in order to send that round through and across the important bits that we're trying to, unfortunately, damage to stop the opponent or adversary. So that's one of the great things about this tool that you cannot do with a flat piece of paper. Same with the head. We got that ocular vault here, right? We got a good straight shot from your vantage point. Now if I turn him, you aim into that location there, and all you've done is probably skipped around off the skull. I'm gonna get some YouTube comments here. If you shoot somebody in the head, they're dead. Do you guys know that the survivability rate of a headshot, if the patient or victim is near a trauma center, is like 8 to 10%. It's not instant death. And there are many instances of people being shot in the head and the bullet skipping right off the skull. Our skull is heavy and made to withstand impact like that. So you've got to be able to think about these angles. So we'll set him up right now. We've seen us shoot him straight on. I'm gonna put a couple more rounds in the chest and head, then we're gonna turn it. So I mentioned a moment ago the survivability rating of a head injury from gunshot wound. Most people don't know the survivability of a gunshot wound from a handgun in the United States is over 80%. We automatically assume that if you're shot, you're dead. You're not. The other thing I want to add here, we are not training to kill people. We are training to stop people. If they die in the process, that is not the intention, but what we need to hit is what stops them. So let's take a look at this now, this direct and erect standpoint that we're used to seeing with targetry. All right, those all look like good hits, right? I like all those, I like all those. So now we've got the target quartering away from me. I'm gonna do this 2 times, once static and then once I'm gonna traverse left to right across the range, and we're gonna have to change our aiming point, our point of entry. And you're gonna see that right now. So that center of the chest, imagine from where you guys are at, your camera angle, if I shot through that, at this angle, I'm gonna hit the right lung, I'm gonna completely miss the spine, and this guy's probably gonna get to the hospital and live, which is the point. We're not trying to kill people, but there is nothing there that is gonna drop this person to the ground at this angle if I put around the same place I did. So from here, I've now got to angle those shots over. Same with the head. Same with the head. Now, for fun, we're going to throw a t-shirt onto the dummy. A t-shirt does a great job of showing you entry points, and you can use your old ratty, stinky ones. Got to make sure we got the tag in the right spot. That could be embarrassing at the gym. This guy smells all skunky. So here's what we're going to be looking for. Entry angles, exit angles. You can add to a drill like this, which is outside of the dummy. Think about where your rounds are going as they pass through, right? Because we're responsible for every round that leaves our gun. So as I am going to draw and engage on this dummy, I'm thinking about a few things. One, where do I need to aim to put my round where I need it to go? This is the same thing that we teach in hunter safety class. Where do I need to place the round to enter, to traverse through the body, to hit what I need it to hit? So from this angle, let's go down range and take a peek. This is why the white shirt's perfect. As we moved across the body, the initial point, the rounds traversed from here that way, straight on, and then from the right side in, which thus would put the wounding through the areas that we need to hit. Again, cheap t-shirt, your old t-shirts, you can go to a thrift shop, or when you're done with them, they make great training aids and you really get a good idea of where your hits are. One of the other things I love the dummy for, something that we incorporate in our classes, is what happens if you are entangled in a fight. You're wrapped up, you have to shoot. Well, a lot of people have never done this with their gun, but if you push a semi-automatic into something, most guns, the slide will go out of battery. That oftentimes will make the gun not fire. This is a perfect way of testing that. If you can see, my slide is coming out of battery, so I'm tangled up with this person. If you try this, please be careful. Just like we talked about, understand where your bullet is going to go after you shoot. I've got this gun jammed into this attacker's torso. Look at that. I've got nothing. I've got nothing because it's out of battery. So I may need to make space and fight. So here, no bueno. And look at those contact shots, what's happening. When you hear about contact muzzle wounding, imagine if that was your flesh or an opponent's flesh. That is pretty traumatic stuff at that distance. That fireball, that cool fireball we see in our Instagram videos, that's what that's doing. If you accidentally shoot yourself this close, this is what's going to happen. So you need to understand where your limbs are, and this guy is a great training aid for that, because you don't want to be shooting something like wood or something like that up close. This guy absorbs the energy, puts the round down range. Caveat to all of this is we got to remember that we had those two rods in here. You don't want to be shooting this close down into these guys. So you got to keep that in mind, folks. So many great things you can do with this dummy. You see people like Brad Friel stabbing and hitting. You know, you can work on all kinds of drills with this where, hey man, I told you no! The fun part is though, he takes them. Those were all good hits. I enjoy my time with him. I hope you guys will too. Go to rubberdummies.com. Think about investing in one. One of the best training tools you can have if you are learning to protect yourself with a gun. Awesome, durable target. You can put a hat on him, you can name him, you can draw a mustache on him. Ooh, look at those muscles. Tell me when you're ready, Home Slice. Right out of the gate. A little walrus stash. Training tools you can have if you are learning to protect yourself with a gun. Because, hey, let's be honest, most of us don't have friends that let us shoot them.